Welcome back to our channel World of Royals.
Well, I think you've got to get the princess pouch, don't you? You've got to work on that brilliant Ben Stiller movie and those glorious moments as they strut their stuff, all sorts of things. And people come with their own prejudices about the megalomania, as I call it each time.
London, February 2026. What began as a whisper of missing luxury became a headline that shook palace corridors. A single handbag, the ultra-exclusive Balenciaga Cash Crocodile embossed clutch, hand-bossed with Zara Tindall's monogram and personally commissioned for the Women in Equine Leadership Gala, had vanished. It was never simply about fashion. It was about identity. Zara, daughter of Olympic champion Princess Anne, had carefully crafted her image as a modern royal businesswoman, composed, credible, and quietly powerful. The bag was meant to symbolize that evolution. But days before her team could collect it from Balenciaga London, it disappeared. The house cited a logistical error, filed no police report, and issued a measured apology. Zara, ever the composed professional, chose not to escalate publicly, though sources confirmed the fury she kept behind closed doors. That restraint should have been the end of it. But then came the photograph that changed everything. Meghan Markle, dressed head to toe in black Balenciaga, walked into a left bank PR office in Paris, clutching Zara's missing bag. The timing was devastating. Within 48 hours, the images leaked internally. Balenciaga quietly paused Meghan's proposed ambassadorship discussions. Old palace tensions, long buried beneath civil silence, began to surface. And through her private secretary, Zara made one measured, firm request: a full internal investigation into how her personally reserved item ended up in the hands of someone with no active commercial relationship with the house. Within 24 hours of the leak, Meghan's team moved swiftly, launching a glossy teaser for
That was awkward. Let's have another look at it.
a new fashion initiative titled Love with Meghan, complete with Paris mood boards, curated clips, and deliberate accessories. Among them, the infamous missing handbag. Palace insiders were unambiguous in their interpretation. This was not a coincidence. It was provocation, aimed not merely at Zara Tindall, but at the institution of the monarchy itself. Yet Meghan's credibility was already fraying at the edges. Despite attending Paris Fashion Week, despite photographed appearances in Balenciaga allegedly facilitated by creative director Pier Paolo Pacioli, her name never officially appeared on ambassador shortlists. Wardrobe controversies from prior years had quietly raised red flags within the house's internal branding team. The math simply didn't add up. Meanwhile, Zara's disdain, never public, always composed, reportedly ran deep among those who knew her best. She found Meghan theatrical, exhausting, and relentlessly strategic. At major royal events, the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, Prince Philip's Memorial, Zara reportedly kept her distance, refusing even eye contact. The handbag incident was not an isolated offense. It reignited years of accumulated tension. Princess Anne, a woman of steel-spined institutional loyalty, said nothing publicly. She never does. But her absence from Sussex-related engagements since 2020 speaks its own language. Sources confirmed she quietly advised Balenciaga to act with dignity. Her message to the house:
how are you protecting children when you are promoting a brand that was accused of inappropriate behavior towards them?
House was characteristically precise. The monarchy does not issue ultimatums, but it remembers. Then came the legal blow that landed in silence. On February 15, 2026, Balenciaga's senior legal advisor issued an internal memo, later leaked to industry insiders, titled simply, "Contractual Freeze." All pending and informal agreements with the Duchess were suspended pending a full review of product access and brand alignment concerns. The woman once rumored to front a luxury sustainability line had been dropped, not with a statement, but with calculated quiet. When Meghan's team responded with a flood of Instagram stories hinting at misogyny and institutional sabotage, palace sources offered a single, damning verdict: victimhood over accountability. While the storm raged, Zara Tindall did something extraordinary by doing nothing at all. She attended the Cartier British Polo Awards in Gloucestershire wearing a white-tailored Victoria Beckham suit, and the internet erupted. Critics praised her elegance. Fashion commentators lauded her aristocratic restraint. But those who understood the game recognized something deeper at work. Zara wasn't simply dressing well. She was exercising power through stillness. When Meghan reached for the fashion world's attention, Zara stood motionless, and the world moved toward her. A week later, Harper's Bazaar UK approached her for a cover feature. She declined, citing family commitments. The message, as always, needed no translation. In the war for perception, she had already won without lifting a sword. Princess and moved with the same quiet efficiency that has always defined her. Senior staffers confirmed she launched a discreet family-only review of royal-adjacent commercial ties. Its timing
Now, look, it's not being received well, certainly not as well as maybe she would have hoped, with some people labeling it a Zoolander war
accident, coinciding directly with growing concerns about Meghan allegedly leveraging royal associations in brand partnerships. And did not call a press conference. She drew the line through policy, reshaped the royal influence map through internal procedure, and reactivated her long-dormant personal advisory group on public image, dormant since the late Queen's passing. Its first assignment, identifying how Zara Tindall, Lady Louise Windsor, and Sophie of Edinburgh could be elevated as discreet, dignified ambassadors of the crown. While and fortified her camp with strategic precision, Meghan's world was beginning to buckle. Her Archwell Foundation faced fresh IRS scrutiny over potential inconsistencies between reported expenses and project output. Tyler Perry, once her most reliable American ally, reportedly stepped back from further financial involvement. Her Paris press tour landed flat with fashion insiders, who described her energy as off-brand and her positioning as disruptive in the least flattering sense. Even her aide Harriet had quietly returned to the UK for private talks with palace legal counsel. The walls were closing in. Meghan's social media presence began to unravel under the pressure. Posts swung erratically between empowerment messaging and cryptic warnings of unspeakable truths. Former Sussex aides confirmed what insiders had long suspected: her exposure tactics had lost their weight. The public was learning to scroll past the drama. Meanwhile, the woman at the center of it all simply continued living her life. Zara Tindall, once quietly overlooked in royal conversations, had become, without seeking it, the cultural counterweight to everything Meghan represented. She did nothing, and in doing nothing, she became everything. The morning after the Paris handbag scandal broke, Lady Louise Windsor was spotted leaving Zara's London flat. No cameras, no entourage, no announcement, just quiet, unshakable loyalty. Shortly after, the Duchess of Edinburgh hosted both Zara and Louise at a private equestrian gathering. No press coverage, no social media, but insiders were clear. This was deliberate. A stabilizing of the narrative. A circle drawn around those who had earned their place within it. Meghan, sensing the ground shifting beneath her, made a desperate play. She reached out to Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, her last remaining threads of institutional connection, inviting them to a Mayfair dinner under the pretext of reconciliation. The real agenda was transparent: extract a coordinated public statement defending her right to pursue luxury partnerships without palace oversight. Beatrice declined entirely. Eugenie arrived late, stayed 40 minutes, and left without a word. A former royal liaison put it bluntly: Meghan was baiting them, attempting to weaponize their proximity against Zara and Anne. But the York sisters, having witnessed the consequences of royal missteps firsthand, weren't naive. You cannot manufacture proximity. Zara earned her standing through years of consistency. Meghan was still looking for shortcuts. Princess Catherine said nothing. She never needed to. At a London charity gala on February 12, 2026, she arrived in a restructured ivory gown, originally worn by Queen Elizabeth II in 1969. The symbolism was layered and deliberate: legacy, continuity, and an unspoken declaration of which side of history she stood on. Zara and Catherine rarely.
Also, this is the same town that her mother-in-law passed away in. Prince Harry says it was due to paparazzi, and Meghan's literally chasing these flashbulbs throughout the city. And then, she's 1 mile away in that video from where Princess Diana, had her last breath, lost her life.
Share public appearances, yet palace insiders confirm a deep, unspoken mutual respect between them. Catherine prizes discretion above all. Zara embodies it without effort. As one palace source observed, she has never needed a microphone. Meanwhile, Meghan's cryptic post, implying she was never invited to their table because she would have built her own, went largely ignored. The public had grown weary of the theater. By mid-February, the tide in British media had visibly turned. Tatler and The Telegraph shifted to neutral or outright critical coverage of Meghan. Zara, by quiet contrast, was drawing understated praise. At a Cardiff medical fundraiser, she raised over £2 million for pediatric research. Her name surfaced as a potential ambassador for British Paralympic equestrian programs. Internal palace memos confirmed the institutional view had crystallized. Zara, Sophie, and Lady Louise were steady hands. Meghan had become a reputational liability. Princess Anne responded, not with headlines but with action. A private meeting at Clarence's house on February 7th. The briefing was dubbed internally the Restoration Meeting. The subject, Meghan Markle. The goal, containment without chaos. And, in characteristic form, delivered what one aide called a masterclass in restraint, without once mentioning Meghan's name. Naming chaos gives it power, the aide explained. Instead, and outlined a strategy of studied silence. No official statements, no emotional rebuttals, no press engagement. Just consistent, dignified conduct. Let the theatrics collapse under their own weight. The crown doesn't duel on social media. The crown endures. But Meghan, sensing isolation closing in, escalated. 3 days after Zara received a coveted co-hosting role at the Royal Ascot-style pavilion, a role once floated for Meghan herself, her team hand-delivered a legal warning hinting at the potential release of archived private communications. Palace insiders dismissed it as the Windsor Files bluff. The palace ignored it. And outside the palace walls, the market had already rendered its verdict.
Is it accepting an award as Humanitarian of the Year on Thursday for protecting children online? She shouldn't be promoting a brand.
European luxury houses quietly withdrew their offers. Chanel championed Zara's equestrian capsule collection instead. Dior and Burberry distanced themselves. A French PR director summed up the industry sentiment with elegant finality. Discretion is our currency. Meghan doesn't represent that. Zara does. When Meghan's team released an Instagram reel mimicking Zara's iconic 2022 Ascot look, the palace did not dignify it with a response. Zara herself said nothing, and that silence was more devastating than any rebuttal could have been. Her refusal to engage, far from appearing weak, solidified her position as the composed, unassailable figure at the center of this saga. Then came the line that traveled around the world. Zara, asked casually about headlines and pressure, offered this with a faint smile. Some of us ride horses. Some ride headlines. I prefer the former. Over 300 outlets picked it up within 24 hours. Calm, precise, and quietly devastating. Even Princess Anne reportedly allowed herself a raised eyebrow of approval. As February deepened, Archewell's internal morale sank. 2 directors resigned. A major investor pulled back from a proposed educational streaming deal. Netflix stopped greenlighting new pitches. Meghan, sensing the shift, attempted a pivot. Wellness, women's empowerment, podcast interviews laced with veiled references to royal figures intimidated by women with a voice. The target was obvious. Zara didn't respond. She flew to Botswana to lead a rural equine development program under the Commonwealth Secretariat. No cameras, no press, just work. The contrast was not lost on anyone watching. At the center of it all stood Zara Tindall and Princess Anne, 2 women who chose silence over spectacle and stability over storm. On February 22nd, Meghan appeared on the US podcast Undaunted. The teaser was classically crafted, poetic metaphors, a velvet
Now let's have a look at Meghan Markle being weird and inauthentic.
voice, controlled outrage. But behind the curtain, she had rewritten her script 3 times and demanded full editorial control. Producers later admitted she was unraveling. The performance landed hollow. Meanwhile, Zara quietly dominated the cultural conversation in a way no publicist could have engineered. Clips of her patiently helping disabled young people mount ponies at a Gloucestershire charity event circulated without prompting. A remark she made during a Commonwealth panel, "We're not above criticism, but we are above collapse," appeared on tote bags, in blog headers, and across social feeds. It spread the way only genuine things do, quietly and unstoppably. The fashion world was now calling her the aristocratic answer to quiet luxury. TikTok creators began dissecting Zara's aesthetic in frame-by-frame detail: equestrian chic, heirloom brooches, precise tailoring, always timeless, never performative. When a fan asked how she managed pressure without drama, her team's response was characteristically wry: "I grew up in a house where horses had more tantrums than humans." It trended for days. Then on February 24th, Princess Anne wrote to Meghan. Not a public rebuke. Not a press statement. A private letter couriered to Montecito. Its tone, according to insiders, was composed and surgically direct. Royalty is earned in the spaces between headlines, in how one endures, not merely how one speaks. And invited Meghan to choose legacy over leverage. Meghan never responded. That same night, U.S. tax authorities opened a formal inquiry into the Archewell Foundation, allegations encompassing misuse of travel expenses, donor conflicts, and inflated PR budgets. Meghan's lawyers issued vague reassurances. Internally, panic set in. Former employees were subpoenaed. Financial documents requested. When reporters gathered outside a royal military charity gala, and one shouted, "Any words for Meghan?" Zara stepped out of her car in a navy cape coat and sapphire brooch, smiled faintly, and said, "None were needed." The crowd applauded. The doors closed behind her. And just like that, the world's gaze quietly pivoted back toward those who had chosen purpose over performance. On a drizzling London morning, Zara Tindall stepped through iron gates, not as an Olympic equestrian or granddaughter of a queen, but as the newly appointed special envoy for heritage and sport. A royal position created specifically in recognition of her decades-long service to the Commonwealth. No advance announcement had been made. No photographers had been tipped. It was Princess Anne's idea, insiders confirmed, to let the moment speak entirely for itself. Wearing a tie that had belonged to her grandfather Prince Philip, restored and gifted by her mother, Zara stood beside King Charles, accepted the appointment with a bow of her head and a steady gaze. Her role would now encompass royal patronages across Commonwealth youth sporting programs, with a particular focus on female empowerment and post-trauma equine therapy. No glitz. No cameras backstage. Just service. At the very same hour, Meghan Markle launched a global live broadcast titled The Cost of Silence, streamed from a luxury loft in downtown Los Angeles. Curated lighting, designer suit, vintage Windsor footage cycling behind her. Nearly 500,000 viewers watching. She began softly, then sharpened her tone, speaking of frozen dinners, of watching others build power by tolerating injustice, of a daughter she would one day tell the truth to. Some applauded. Others grimaced. But within 24 hours, the broadcast had been eclipsed by something Meghan had not anticipated. The Royal Archives unveiled a new permanent exhibition inside Windsor Castle, Service in Motion. Among its featured figures, Princess and the late Queen Elizabeth II and Zara Tindall. Zara's exhibit held handwritten letters from girls she had mentored through charity sport, video footage from military hospital visits, and the riding boots she wore winning Olympic gold in 2012. No social media campaign. No sponsorship logos. Just impact. Near the exit hung a quote from Princess and some talk of legacy. Others ride it out, rain or shine. It became the most shared line of the week. That same evening, Zara and her husband Mike Tindall attended a veterans fundraiser at Sandringham. A small girl in a wheelchair approached. Zara knelt beside her and asked gently, "What's your dream?" The girl answered, "To be brave like you." Zara smiled and replied, "I think you already are." No broadcast. No quote cards. No drama. Just legacy. For the first time, the world saw the true and irreversible divide, one woman fighting to control the story, the other having already become part of history.